My wife told me she was pregnant, but I knew I couldn't be the father. I'm infertile. I'm 38. My wife is 33. We were married for 2 years and dated for 3 before that. She wanted marriage much more than I did. In the end, I agreed because I wanted to make her happy. About a year ago, we started trying to have a child again, at her insistence. We tried hard, but nothing worked. The pressure and constant failure took a serious toll on my mental health, so I decided to get medically tested. Around that time, my wife became cold and increasingly harsh with me. I tried to tolerate her behavior, but it became unbearable. A few days after the examination, the doctors told me I was infertile. Hearing that shattered me. Even though having a child was never really my idea, I had already begun to picture myself as a father and genuinely wanted that future. Being told I would never be able to have children of my own was the worst news of my life, or so I thought at the time. I tried to gather the courage to tell my wife that I was the reason we couldn't conceive, but I was terrified of her reaction. She was already treating me badly, and I couldn't imagine how she'd react to learning that what she wanted most might never happen with me. I waited several days before telling her the truth, but she surprised me first. 4 days after I learned I was infertile, she sat me down and said she had important news. I was convinced she had somehow found out about my diagnosis. My heart was pounding, but instead, she smiled and told me she was pregnant. I was completely stunned. My mind went blank. She didn't notice anything was wrong and immediately started celebrating. I forced myself to act happy so she wouldn't suspect anything. The next day, I went through testing again just to be absolutely certain. The results were the same. I was completely infertile. At that point, the truth became unavoidable. If I wasn't the father, then my wife had cheated on me. Artificial insemination would have been extremely expensive, and I was the only one working in our household. There was no way she could have done that without me knowing. That meant only one thing. The thought was horrifying. For several days, I did nothing. My wife, meanwhile, was planning a large party to announce her pregnancy. She looked radiant. I felt crushed, but I couldn't let it show. I needed answers. I didn't even tell my family what was happening. It was too personal. I also didn't confront my wife. If I accused her right away, she could have left, and I might never have learned who the father really was. Everything came together on the day of the party. There were many guests, more families, friends, and even a few of my coworkers. She also invited our neighbor who lives across the street. He's 27, young, and undeniably attractive. He's an aspiring model trying to break into the industry, and had recently moved in with his aunt to be closer to the city. My wife always had a soft spot for him. She cooked for him and his aunt when he first moved in. He'd been over for dinner several times. He was polite, well-read, and like my wife, had a background in literature. They connected immediately. I never had a problem with him and trusted my wife completely, but when he walked in that day, I saw her eyes light up. She went straight to him and hugged him longer than anyone else. No one seemed to notice except me. In that moment, I knew something wasn't right. I needed proof. I pretended to go to the bathroom but went into the bedroom and opened my wife's laptop. I had already checked her phone days earlier while she slept and found nothing suspicious. The laptop was harder. She was always using it and would turn the screen away if I asked what she was doing, saying she was working on her novel. This had gone on for months, and I respected her privacy because I truly believed her. But now I was almost certain there was no novel. Luckily, there was no password. After searching for a bit, I found a second email account. The messages were full of love confessions between my wife and our neighbor. I recognized him immediately. He used his real name in recent emails. In one message, she told him she was pregnant. He reacted badly and seemed upset. The emails stopped for a while, likely because he wanted to end things. But my wife refused to let him go. Then I found the worst email of all. She wrote that she had spoken to a friend who was a lawyer and planned to file for divorce shortly after giving birth. The reason she pushed me to try for a child was so she could later collect child support and spousal payments. Her plan was to leave me a few months after the birth and run away with our neighbor. I felt sick reading it. Even now, remembering those words makes me nauseous. I took photos of the emails on my phone, closed the laptop, and put everything back exactly as it was. The betrayal hurt, but what shocked me more was the scale of the plan. Cheating is one thing. Manipulating someone into paying for your future with another man is something else entirely. I was furious, and I decided I wouldn't confront her right away. I would play along. For the next 9 months, I acted like the perfect husband and future father. It was exhausting, knowing she was lying to me every day. But the more she lied and pretended to be happy, the more determined I became. I went to every doctor's appointment, made sure she took her vitamins, and did everything right. When labor finally began, I drove her to the hospital myself. I called her parents in advance, but not mine. I didn't want them there in case things became too dramatic. Her parents needed about an hour to get there, which gave me time alone with her. When she was safe in the delivery room, I dropped the bomb. I told her I was going to step out and call our neighbor so he could come. She looked stunned and started mumbling that it wasn't necessary, and that she didn't want anyone else there. I smiled and showed her my fertility test results, along with the divorce papers I had filed just days earlier. I explained that even if I wanted to, I couldn't be the father. Then I told her about the emails. Her expression was priceless. As I left the room, she struggled to find words. My heart was racing so fast I thought I might pass out. I called the neighbor, told him my wife was giving birth, and hung up before he could respond. I got into my car and waited until her parents arrived. As soon as I saw her father's car pull in, I drove away. I turned off my phone and headed to a motel outside the city. I had packed all my belongings weeks earlier and kept them in my trunk, just in case. That night, I slept surprisingly well. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. There were hundreds of messages from my wife and the neighbor. I didn't open a single one. I did read messages from my parents and brother. I called them and asked to meet. When I arrived, they were confused and upset. They believed I had abandoned my own child. I sat them down and told them everything. When I finished, they were silent. My father finally said he hoped nothing worse would come from all this. That was it. In the days that followed, my wife accused me of ruining her experience of motherhood. She kept calling and texting. Even the neighbor messaged me, saying we should put our differences aside and try to fix things. He even claimed my wife had started falling in love with me again during the pregnancy. That was nonsense. If that were true, he wouldn't still be in her life. I moved into a hotel and had no intention of seeing her. I blocked the neighbor immediately. I was certain the only reason he stayed with her was because he hoped she could still get money from me. Both of them were unemployed. My wife had been a housewife to something I respected, but she wasn't just taking care of the home. She was cheating on me. My lawyer is confident I won't have to pay child support once we prove the affair. The house is in my name. She tried to negotiate, but eventually moved out. I returned home and discovered she had moved in with the neighbor across the street. That only made her situation worse. Not long after, her father sent me a long message apologizing for his daughter's actions and saying the family condemned what she did. His words meant a lot to me. A month later, things were going badly for her legally. We proved the affair easily. She helped by moving in with the man she cheated with. She even tried to accuse me of being an alcoholic, claiming that's why I became infertile and why she cheated. That was quickly disproven. I quit drinking a year earlier. Eventually, the neighbor kicked her out with the baby. I heard shouting and saw him shove her while she was holding the child. I ran outside immediately. Whatever she did, the baby was innocent. I took the child, brought them into my house, and called her father. He came and took them home, thanking me. My wife cried uncontrollably and apologized over and over. She said she would accept any terms and stop fighting the divorce. I don't regret anything. I handled this with dignity. I did what I could. Let me know in the comments what you think about this story. Thank you for watching until the end. Subscribe to the channel, check out our other videos, and good luck.